All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm Justin. This is the debrief. This is my latest series where it'll be an ongoing series, and this is the first episode of a 4-part episode that I will be debriefing different elements of my life from childhood, growing up, kind of a rougher upbringing. That's the first part. The second part is going into the Marines, my military experience, training, boot camp, other elements like that. A time where I broke my tooth out on the last part of boot camp. Check that out. That's in episode 2, or actually the part 2 of this first episode 4-part series. Later on, I'll go into different specific parts of everything and elaborate more. This is just the combat side of things. This is not an M16A2 service rifle, and it's not an M4. I used the M4 in Iraq. I was blessed to have it because, that was like getting a freaking golden limo or something like that. So, Iraq was bittersweet. Like a lot of you guys know, combat is Murphy's Law, is the supreme law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst fucking possible time. And if that wasn't true enough, anybody who's been deployed knows that gear goes down. Communication is the first thing that always goes. Comms are always fucked up. Some gear's fucking up. A truck's fucking up. Things are jacked up. You got to deal with it. So, I was with 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force. I was an engineer. I was also 8551. At the time, back in 2005, at the beginning of 2005, we deployed to Camp Fallujah. Fallujah was blowing up, the city of Fallujah. If you haven't seen any war footage of Fallujah, Iraq, or Operation Phantom Fury, then check that out. Also, Ramadi, Baghdad, Taqaddum. We basically did operations all over those areas of all Anbar Province of Iraq. So we encountered numerous situations. I personally encountered several situations where, I just fucking am blessed to still be here. And I can't, still today, I don't know how certain things played out the certain way they did. And so, but that's beside the point, right now. The main thing is when I found myself landing in Iraq, we hadn't even got on ground yet. I was a platoon sergeant assigned to engineer platoon at the time. I was a young sergeant. And I was the last leg of my platoon to land in Iraq. And at the time, insurgents were really, really testing the coalition forces, Marines, Army, other elements for control of Iraq, for better or worse. And the insurgency was comprised of a lot of different guys from a lot of different places. They fucking hated Americans, and that's the best I can describe that. And they really hated Americans. And if they caught you, there's a lot of beheading videos of journalists. They were really ruthless. And Al-Qaeda was pretty rough. And they were doing everything they could to bring the pain to American forces. Now, prior to landing in Al-Taqaddum Air Base, the strip's right there. And so the insurgents knew certain aircraft came in at certain time, and they would try to get a beat on us and pin us down and find ways to do what they could with what they had against American forces. And that night, We were all jet lagged and just completely wore the fuck out, but we were ready to get in country and just start getting to work. And Marines are war fighters, and we, at least I wanted to be on the ground to do something, anything. But at the time, prior to landing, an insurgent or a group of insurgents tried to, do a random attack, whether it was planned or not. I don't know. Who the fuck knows? But they shot what we believed to be an RPG at our aircraft, and the plane, prior to landing, I mean, the airstrip's right there. Aircraft comes in, aircraft goes out. Pretty fucking simple. Shoot a fucking RPG at it. When we came in, prior to landing, they shot one at us, and none of us knew. We knew we were about ready to land because of the timing and just what we knew it was time to land, from the time frame, and we could feel the slow descent. And next thing you know, the plane banks almost completely sideways. It felt like, I may be fucking exaggerating because, sorry, I didn't necessarily, I don't remember everything perfectly from it, but all I know is all the chaff rounds blew. The plane did unbelievably remarkable but fucking terrifying maneuver, and I thought we were going to crash. I didn't know. None of us knew what the fuck it was at the time. My whole platoon's in there. A third of our platoon was in there, or maybe it was a fourth. I don't remember, but basically, I'm there with the guys. All our gear's in there. We're stuck, and all our gear's falling all over. You see these flashes outside the window, and come down on the landing, and we landed, and we didn't even barely have any time to think about what happened. It just happened. We landed, thank fucking God, and everybody's looking around like, was that supposed to happen, or was there a malfunction? Who knows? So it was a female National Guard officer who was piloting that plane. God bless you, whoever the fuck you are out there in the world. Thank you for doing what you could. I don't know if you were trained to do that or if that was just an instinctual response to almost being blown the fuck out of the sky. But thank you for not getting blown the fuck out of the sky, and thank you for landing and saving all of everybody that was in there. At the time, choppers were going down. They were really smoking us pretty bad with RPG versus aircraft, and later on would prove to be pretty rough with those tools, as well. So we get on convoy, we get over to Camp Fallujah. It's freezing fucking cold at night. By the time I get to Fallujah, it's like super early morning, but everything's blacked out on the bases. White light, other illumination, chem lights, things like that. That's how we seen at night, other than ambient light by the moon or stars. So these bases, different bases, you can't use lights at night because they can get a bead on you. Like I said, they use those to hone in on as a point of reference to kill us and to shoot at range. So once I got there, I could barely even stand up because we were in back of these 7 tons. And once I got all of my gear on and I went to step off the 7 ton, I lost my footing somehow because my foot was numb and got off the 7 ton. I grabbed on the side of the 7 ton door, and the door, it was like one of those guys that just grabs on and just can't and just slides off. That was me. And I slid. I grabbed the door and it dug a hole in my arm all the way up my hand, and it was so cold because in the desert it's fucking freezing at night. So in the early part of the year when we got there, it was still freezing, and not only cold at night but fucking freezing. And so it dug a hole in my arm all the way down, pretty deep. And that was my first experience in Iraq. Yeah, once again, Finally get to my camp, and I'm already fucking injured by some stupid ass, loss of footing. Go figure, Murphy. Thank you very much, Murphy. Murphy's Law. So get off there, get all our gear squared away, find our living areas and shit. And so get acquainted with our compound, get acquainted where the chow hall is. Okay, pretty simple. We start kicking off our deployment and start chewing up days, to get the days behind us. And so I was platoon sergeant in my platoon. My gunnery sergeant, my staff and COIC, I had a very good working relationship with for the most part, and he is the senior enlisted guy of my platoon. And I was the next guy in line in the chain of command because I was the platoon sergeant billet. I was I was still a lot junior compared to a lot of my other sergeants, and I looked up to them quite a bit, my squad leaders, and I was a very good working relationship with them and sought their advice and their input frequently. And so Murphy strikes again. Nobody tells you about this shit in Iraq, but my gunnery sergeant, obviously, he's human. I don't hold it against him, but we didn't know. Later on, we found out there were some rumors or something. Whether it was true or not, I don't know, but he was having some coping problems initially, for sure. And he started kind of hazing the Marines quite a bit, making them feel sandbags for stupid shit, and really, really biting into them, into their morale. I didn't really feel that was necessary, and I explained that to him. I said, we're in Iraq. This isn't, none of these guys are doing anything overtly fucked up. I'm all about reprimanding and dealing with Marines if they're fucked up, but this isn't acceptable. He didn't like that. I was as tactful as I could be, but I still had a job to do, and it was my duty to take care of my Marines. And when you're in Fallujah, Iraq, at the worst time, debatably, of the war, then don't be fucking with the Marines. And so what'd he do? He fired me. He fired me from my job, my billet as platoon sergeant, and he gave me two options. He said, you can go be an office bitch for a battalion, go work at the battalion office, or you can go to Force Protection Platoon and they need a sergeant over there. Captain Cahoon needs another guy. They're going on all these missions all over Anbar, and QRF, they got different jobs to do. So those are your two options. And I said, you're fucking shitting me. I'm going to Force Pro Platoon. So when I got to Force Protection Platoon, this is after like my first month in Iraq, and I was there for, better part of a year. And so my first month, I'm fired from platoon sergeant, almost die in a plane crash, with some of my other guys, and I had just earned tons of loyalty from my platoon because I was away for a while, and I came back. We did our pre-deployment workups prior to going to Iraq. We're out in the field fucking forever, doing, mount training and convoy ops and night ops and weapon systems and shooting packages and just blah, 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 blah. Tons of other shit. And so a lot of the guys were new, just earned all their trust. And now we're in Iraq, and my gunny's flipping the fuck out with like alcohol withdrawals or whatever, and fires me. And so I cut my losses. I'm like, what the fuck ever, man. I went to Force Pro Platoon. They're comprised of different Marines from our unit, and their primary mission was security team missions through all Anbar Province of Iraq, up to Baghdad, Ramadi, Blue Diamond, and in Fallujah at the different compounds. And QRF, and our battalions and our compound security element, immediate security element. I was assigned to be the physical security chief of my compound. I literally had to walk the wire every fucking day and set up all these HESCO barriers and tons of different, you know, layers of concertina wire, cutting my hands up all the damn time. Surprised I didn't die from being cut up by concertina wire, because I was literally fucking cut every single day. Oh, and by the way, the little scorpions out there, they don't tell you about that either. It's like, oh, by the way, this little fucking scorpion right here, it'll kill you. What do they call, like death stalkers or some shit? Yeah, don't worry about the insurgents. I mean, you just get stung by this damn scorpion and you'll die in a few minutes. But so yeah, I was moving sandbags and reinforcing shit. I was always seeing those things and almost got stung a couple times. Thankfully I didn't. So anyway, I got integrated with the platoon and we started going on operations. I was a vehicle commander on some convoy operations, and when other elements of the when part of my platoon would be out on missions and doing operations, then part of our platoon would stay back and manage the entry control points to our compound, manning the guard shack, and then there would be a corporal of the guard, and I would get augmentees to man those security posts, and then I would get a corporal of guard, and then I would be the sergeant of the guard, and then we had our talk and everything, and we would, you know, keep in contact with base force protection, and anytime we got hit or had different attacks, which were very frequent, we got mortared on all the time. My compound was in the area where it was like the maximum range of RPGs and mortars, so they fucking fell on our compound all the time. Numerous times, like there was one, so basically I would be in charge of my compound security team when my guys were out, and we would flip-flop, and so, you know, one of the sergeants would have to stay back, and then so I would flip with those guys, so one of the other sergeants and a few Marines from the platoon could stay back and just get some R&R while other guys were out on these operations and missions. So one time I was back and I just had a few of my Force Pro guys, and like, you know, the battalion, I mean, they're Marines, and they know how to fight and they know how to do their job, but I mean, they weren't sped up on different things like we were. And so, like, if we got like, we were QRF a few times, and like there were certain situations, like I have only fucking like 2 saws, 2 M4, 2 249s, like this amount of ammo. I got like a few drums and like some augmentees. Like, really? But one specific time, we got mortared on all the time. Like I said, one time a few guys were almost blown up outside the chow hall, Camp Fallujah. Another time, one of my entry control points was hit with a mortar, and I'm there in the force protection tent, sergeant of the guard, and like one of my Marines, like, you hear the incoming come in. Any of you guys been in combat, I mean, leave a comment about that shit. It's no joke. And you get really familiar with that, what incoming is versus outgoing, counter battery artillery. And so, yeah, it usually comes in 2, 3, or 4 fucking mortars, because those insurgent teams, those mortar teams come up, they drop the mortars, as many as they can, and they get the fuck out, because they know counter battery's about ready to smoke them and turn them to dust. And And so one specific day we got mortared on in one of my outposts. One of my guys, by the fucking grace of God, like, I don't know how he survived, but he should have been vaporized. But his, one of those entry control point guard shacks got hit and took shrapnel. He got his bell rung really hard, and I ran out there. I had Marines running up to me. Hey, Sergeant, we got entry control point 3 just got hit, and one of the guys are down. And I'm like expecting to run out there and see one of my Marines fucking bleeding out. But anyway, fast forward, we did martial arts training. We do different things to stay busy and productive. And another day, like, we're trying to get some rest. Like, I'm back on Sergeant of Guard duty, and because I was physical security chief, so I stayed back and did reinforcing the perimeter quite a bit. And I would also double up as Sergeant of Guard, and so I always had my radios on me and radios with the guys and shit. And so one night we had a high-level detainee, insurgent terrorist that was broke out of our battalion, out of our base fucking prison. And he broke out. The detainee escaped. This guy, base informed all compounds, sweep and clear all your compounds. If you see this guy, shoot to kill, shut him down, and turn him off ASAP. And so I told all my guys, hey, here's what's up. All right. And they actually sent us over, like, it was like a big blob of his face, like old school style. Like, I don't even know what the fucking dude looked like, but I'm like, roger that. All right. See him. He's done. So I told my guys, and then we had to sweep and clear all our battalions, all our compound, like all the damn platoons, clear all their rooms. So we're kicking in fucking officers' doors and like, excuse me, sir, make sure this guy ain't in there. Shut that porn off. But no, it was a good time. It was a good time. So we never found the guy. I actually, I don't even recall. I mean, if we ever even found that dude. But fast forward, we went up different convoy operations, went into Fallujah numerous times. I mean, the whole city, just what a place. They're always shooting at convoys, always lighting people up, IEDs all the fucking time, all over. And I mean, be in the debrief tent, going over all the shit. And, it got to a point where the commander was like, you have to understand the amount of convoys we're on, we're going to get fucking hit, and somebody's going to get just, you guys need to start expecting that. So I personally went through a lot of highs and lows of, just that dread, that depression a little bit. When it finally hits you with the amount of operations you're on, that just the statistics, you're going to get hit. And so there was numerous times we got hit. And one time my captain got, he was the recon element. He usually pushed out further from our main body of the convoy. And my platoon's job on specific convoys was to be the force protection element, and if we had any enemy contact, to light them up and shut them down, and to protect the main body of the element of the convoy. My captain would go ahead of the platoon and do route recon, and if he basically one night I was the next force protection truck, the first Venom truck in our convoy, my Humvee, and I was vehicle commander for my guys, and I had a 240 on there. My guys are in the back of this high back, open back Humvee. Back when, most of our trucks didn't really have any fucking Kevlar or up armor, but that specific day I was in the high back, overlooking the edge, just surveying and observing for any kind of enemy movement or anything out of the anything out of the ordinary, like any other day. And that specific day, I look up and I see my captain, the whole front of his truck just lift in the air, and just massive explosion. His whole fucking front of his truck detonates. He hit a pressure detonated IED, and it was very sobering. And I remember how I pulled out the saw and I laid down, and because I thought for a second, I was almost positive it was an RPG that hit him. And so I'm just like hyper aware and lay the saw on the side of the fucking high back, and I'm praying I see somebody so I can just destroy them. I felt the game time button get pushed, and that was I've never seen anybody. Obviously, it was fucking ID, but usually they would counter ambush, a complex ambush, and they would while we would get our casualties, they would AK us and shoot RPGs while we would gather the wounded. But ironically, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but thank God, because he had the most up-armored truck. They were hurting, but they all survived. And if it would have hit where it hit on the same side I was, on the open back, and I would hang my head over the edge of the truck, and if my truck hit that would have just decapitated me. It would have just taken my whole fucking head off. And I think about that, I'm like, oh my God, thank God you hit that, but thank God, I mean, I wish you didn't, but I mean, Jesus, how do you rationalize that? But yeah, it was a shitty deal. I'm glad he was okay. But later on, I was in one of my sleeping quarters, and we took RPGs and mortars all the time, but one specific time I took, there's an RPG that had to be 20 meters, within 20 meters of me, easily. But it was right next to my sleeping area, and it blew me out of my rack. The detonation was the loudest fucking thing I ever heard in my life. I was just laying there right before you like kind of fall asleep. In Iraq, you don't really fall asleep. You're just kind of there. And sleep problems usually arise, but we got hit, or I took a RPG, and next thing I know, I thought I died. I literally thought I died. I was up and there was dust everywhere, and it blew me out of my rack. And like, not only that, but I fucking hit my head on the ground apparently. But I was all sorts of fucked up after that. Like, I had a pretty bad time after about a week. Vertigo and all kinds of dizziness and nauseousness that kind of came and went. And I didn't really know what the fuck a TBI was or any of that stuff. But that rocket went through the arm of a staff sergeant in the same area, and he got sent home. But I was the closest, if not the closest guy to that. But there was this berm, and it hit at the top of the berm, and just the trajectory that, thank God, man, I would have been fucking just, I would have been vaporized any closer or any different angle. But yeah, I was like right before I fell asleep, and the next thing you know, I heard the loudest crack and boom that I felt like all the way through my fucking like soul. And the next thing you know, I'm like, my eyes are open, and I thought I died. I literally thought that I had died. I didn't know what was going on. Tons of confusion. But yeah, it's crazy. And then later on, I mean, I got into it with this female Army Sergeant Major when I was in Camp Victory, Iraq, in Baghdad. She tried to chew my ass for some stupid petty shit, for not having certain gear on at a certain time, and we had just gotten a firefight right outside Baghdad. Yeah, so I mean, they tried to run this IED into us. It was this little Isuzu pickup truck loaded full of these propane tanks. And so I'm at the front of the convoy. I hear the other Venom units. That was our call sign: Venom 1, 2, 3, 4. Venom actual, blah, blah, blah. So I hear another Venom unit, like, say they have contact. And so I haul ass. I'm the vehicle commander for my truck. I have my guy turn us around. We haul ass to the middle of the convoy where this attack took place. And on my way back, I see all these fucking tracers just lighting up the right flank of the convoy over by this house. And there's this truck, and I see fucking sparks and shit flying everywhere. And like, we get up there, and my like we're wearing NVGs, and like there's really no depth to them at all. It's just a green fucking blob of nothing. And so we drove that way almost all the time. And my driver, in our haste to get into the fight, almost went head on into a fucking tank. And vehicle accidents happen all the time over there. And people are rolling over, falling off into fucking rivers and tributaries and water aqueducts and drowning, like sink. And so, yeah, I was almost fucking died. Like, we were, took part of our, hit our mirror, literally. And holy shit. But we get up there, dismount, head up to this house, because that's what these insurgents would do. They would take over these families and take over. So there's this Iraqi family in there with all her 6 to 8 kids. These little boys and girls in there, various ages, and their dad. And you always address the elder of the house, the father. But how we addressed them wasn't the most ideal way. Basically, what happened was you have the outer cord, inner cord, and the assault team, the assault element. And I was the outer cord of this situation. Cleared all the way up, cleared the truck, cleared everything all the way up to the house. I was the outer cordon, so I had my Marines envelop the house. The outer cordon keeps everybody from coming in to your op, and then your inner cordon keeps people from coming out of the house and escaping or evading. And the assault element, it kicks the door down and clears the room, clears the structure, and clears the whatever that may be. And in this case, it was just a mud hut house, and one of the many. And pull the family out. They had been taken hostage by these insurgents. There's a big ass ditch right next, parallel to the road, where they just had been sitting forever. So we validated evidence of that situation. I cleared around the house, around the structure. Army QRF came in with thermal scanning and all that shit. And but yeah, it was in the middle of like July or June, and these families they sleep out in their yards. That's where they sleep. They don't sleep in the house because it's so fucking hot. And so, like, we're out there, we almost light up the whole family. Thank God we didn't, because we shoot and we hit what we shoot, and they were shooting at that truck, and we did almost smoke one of their goats though. It was like chained up right next to this damn outer little mud hut, like poultry freaking cage thing. There was like 3 chickens in there. I'm expecting an insurgent to pop out at me, and I'm clearing this fucking thing. And I look in there and just these 3 chickens, they look like they had been just completely just used up to their last damn energy. Probably no feed, no food, like just used for every fucking thing they were worth. And those featherless chickens in there, no damn bad guy. But yeah, they took them hostage. I had wore this crucifix prior. I'd bought it right before I left, just more as a symbol of sacrifice. For a higher purpose, kind of more of a, we gotta really grit our teeth and to know what we're made of. One of those things. So I had taken my necklace off because it's gold, and I was gonna give it to one of these kids because they don't have anything. Like, they don't have shit in their house. That's just how they were. It was very, very humbling to see how they lived and what they were able to use for resources and how they got by. And ironically, a lot of them were really had a lot of fire in life, and it was nice seeing the kids, find ways to be resilient in that type of environment. I got a picture I'll show you guys sometime, maybe. This is in Fallujah, where it's just a whole fucking rubble after we came through and just smoked everything. Literally almost every building in Fallujah, we shot an AT-4 through, or 203s or what. Anything. The teams went through. But there's like 8 kids playing out in rubble with soccer balls. I got one little kid had a cast on his arm. But point is, I was trying to give this kid something, or his family. He was like all the kids were young, but I tried to give him that, and then I'm like, it's a cross, it's a crucifix. He's Muslim, probably not gonna work. So I just decided to give him one of my Maglite flashlights. So that was that. Packed up, rolled into Camp Victory, Baghdad, BIOP, and went in there, and we were all just strung out and tired. It was a long night. The sun just came up by the time we were rolling in. And we'll do all of our ops at night. Almost every unit worked that way. So your convoy sleeping schedule was always fucked up. But getting some food. So here's a funny story part. So we're all strung out. We get in this little firefight. Going into there. So we're all perked up and tuned up. Got our full combat kit on, Kevlar, everything. So they took mortar fire that night as well into the morning. And I guess some of us, a few hours of sleep, slept through it. And next thing you know, the captain's like, hey, if you're Army guys, my Army dogs out there, what U2 status? If there's anybody, what does that mean necessarily? But basically my captain was like, hey, there's U2 status. Have your gear on. Have your gear ready, or something like that. That's what he told us. So my machine gunner, my one of my guys was like, hey Sergeant, there's a fucking pizza shack over here. Pizza. And I'm like, what the fuck? Roger that. We got 10 mics. And we're fucking procuring some damn Italian action. So we get over there, we make our way. I got my vest on, and I got my Kevlar helmet on my carabiner. And I'm going for the kill. And I get in there, and there's this horseshoe of trailers. There's like a Taylor out of everywhere. It's like, okay, guys, your Army guys, love you. You got a tailor shop here in Camp Victory, Iraq. and a pizza fucking shack, and then some other shit. So there's vendors, and then in the middle there's this cami netting with all these fucking shit. Man, all this talking. So there's picnic tables in the middle of this fucking cami netting where all these soldiers are eating all this shit, right? And so I get over there, walking up, mind on the target, and these two female soldiers walk up. I didn't know one of them was a fucking sergeant major, but she walks up and she's like, "Hey, Marine, come here." I'm like all calm and cool, like, "Hey, what's up? What's going on? What's going on, Sergeant Major?" And she's like, "Where's your Kevlar? Put your Kevlar on. You're supposed to have it on right now. It's U2 status. Didn't you know that?" I'm like, "Well, okay, I can, but there is some chow over here, right? There is that where the pizza's at?" Because I was just double checking. I got word that there was some pizza over here, and it's pretty good. And she wasn't really taking to my damn sidestepping it. So she's like, "You need to put that on right now. And why are you not standing at parade rest? You are just an E5." And I was like, "Ooh, really?" Well, here's the deal. And I got fucking kind of tuned up when she just said just. She just said just. And I was fucking ready to get it. And I was like, she was like, "Put your hands behind your back." And I was like, "Sergeant Major, here's the deal. Marines don't put our hands behind our back in combat. That's not what we do. And we don't salute. And I'm not trying to disrespect you, but I'm trying to get some chow. I'll put my Kevlar on." I took it off. I put it on. And I was like, no disrespect. I don't know where this is going, but, we just got in a little firefight coming into your base, and we're all tired. Just trying to get some chow. My fucking Marine already left. He like sidestepped and flanked around, got out of the damn kill zone, and so I'm trying to just get her to shut the fuck up so I can leave, appease the damn powers that be type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And she just kept going on. She was like, "Can I see your I want to see your ID. Who are you?" And I was like, "I am Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, Force Protection Platoon, Camp Fallujah, Iraq. Here's my ID." And I shoved it in her face. She didn't like that. Well, I don't know. You just gotta fucking push the limits. You know what I'm saying? Little by little, as far as you can. And basically, she said, "Yeah, I'm gonna call your chain of command. I'm gonna get a hold of them. My fucking uncle was a Marine, and blah 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 was a Marine." I'm like, I don't care. I want to get some chow, man. Got some fucking pizza to sell. Back on base, $20 a slice. They don't have that shit in Fallujah. So we're getting our chow finally. I turn around, I about face, and here's all these soldiers with all their gear off underneath this, like, it's just cami netting. It's no cover from a mortar or a fucking rocket. But yeah, it's just how it works. Politics, wartime politics. If you guys got a story about something like that, let me know. I'd be interested to hear, because that can't be the only fucking story. But this first sergeant calls me over and he's like, hey, Marine, hey, don't be too upset about that. Like, that's just what she does. She chews everybody's ass. And I was like, I appreciate that, first sergeant. Just kind of weird. I mean, but ate some pizza with some really cool Army MPs. Very good example of every Marine's a rifleman. you guys, the Army guys in different units were getting combat action all the time, and just shit was fucking popping off. You didn't have to be a main line unit to really have these situations occur. Combat's combat. Iraq's Iraq. The Marine doesn't, the enemy doesn't really give a fuck what your job is or what your unit is. So it was just, yeah, one of those things. So broke bread. Camp Victory, Iraq, with some really kick-ass Army MPs. They had females that were going out on ops with the MPs, getting some. I mean, trigger pulling, you know what I'm saying? Like, getting kills. And it was cool. And we talked about that a little bit right there, right then and there that day. So, hats off to those guys and gals. And we packed up everything and headed back to Fallujah and took extra pizzas with us because, we, like I said, we sold those pizzas $50, or like not 50, like $20 a slice ish, given their pay grade. So we had outside Camp Fallujah, going into the city, there was a female search and it was a security search type of detail that ended up getting hit with the vehicle-borne IED right outside Camp Fallujah, going into the city, because there's only so many routes you can take to go to your objective, and you can only be spontaneous and unpredictable so much before just the stats and the damn cards, the way they fell. There's so, I mean, we would have times where we would just be back to back with other units on certain routes and MSRs that just be a fucking clusterfuck. And that's Murphy's Law. That's combat. That's the way it works. And one specific time, it was one of the biggest loss of female service member life at the time, and their truck got hit, and like I don't know, I looked it up a while back when I was kind of just recalling something with another buddy of mine, and it was one of the biggest female loss of service member life and at the war at that time, and several of them died, and the machine gunner in the turret was like cut in half, blew the whole truck on its side. But there were several. They had a big call for other people to take and replace those Marines, and basically what they did, they went in the town and at checkpoints and searched Iraqi women for customs and courtesy reasons and security reasons. Obviously, was primary reason. I'll make sure they wasn't taking in munitions or any kind of other things, because the insurgents would use women and children for that all the time. So that was a very, very important job, especially right there at that time. And they really fucking hit us pretty hard, with that one. And we had a couple, specifically one female sergeant, one female corporal, that were Marines, and that I knew because I was martial arts instructor, and I belted one of them in the martial arts system and back in the rear. And she came up to me one day because they were like, "Hey, we need you guys to replace these Marines that had died." And she was just asking me, should she do it? She doesn't want to do it. She has kids. It was one night, and she was like asking me about that. And as we were passing, and because we were supposed to take them back out, load them up and take them back out to Fallujah, and so she was talking to me about it, and man, she just was really, really shook, understandably. But it was one of those things, this in this day and age of equality and all this stuff. And it's like, you look, I have a 2-year-old son back home. And for the record, he's going into the Marines next year. He's going to carry that fucking torch. And I never forced it on him. It's just part of what he has always wanted to do. So she just was really shook and was trying to find every reason not to go. And her kids were one of the reasons. And it's like, we all have fucking kids out here. And I told her that, and I'm like, you got to look in deeper here. You don't know when your light switch is going to go off, you know, and then you're going to get depressed and have weird ass fucking moments like anybody else. But you just got to focus on your job. If something happens, react, manage it, and just focus on your job. It's just that simple. And then once you simplify things like that, taking it day to day, chow to chow, things just are more manageable that way. You cannot look at the big picture, long term. Oh, I have so many months. I have fucking some soldiers. Some of you guys out there, like, so, man, at the time the Army was making guys stay there for a year and a half deployments. I was like, dude. I mean, but shit, we got a job to do, and so it's one of those things. So I finished up everything. Man, there was just so much loss of life that a lot of people don't think about on the civilian side. Like I said, some of like the different families and kids I encountered, and just different observations of Iraqi families that were just kind of in the middle of this major war and conflict, these battles, these different scenarios that were taking place all across Iraq, and they were trying to do the best they can and vote and bring in the people that they could rebuild their country with. We were training so many of their ISF and different guys to pick the torch up, so we didn't have to fucking be there anymore, and they could just assume control. But you can't teach somebody an attitude necessarily. You just have to have something there a little bit to work with, and a lot of those guys just aren't fucking made like that. Whether it's their culture, I don't know. You guys have an opinion about that? But in my experience, they were just, a lot of them were just fucking didn't want anything to do with conflict. They wanted to do their little thing, and they didn't really have a lot of sense of country, like patriotism here. And so training those guys to pick up the torch was just, I was going out to a compound once where there was ISF and some buddies that were training them, and I was on a gator going through this like boneyard area, and like I almost ran over a fucking mortar that had not exploded, like this close. And I just looked out of my eye and I looked back. I'm like, oh shit, man, another one of those things. But yeah, there was just so many civilians that had got murdered right there, all over, all the time, and planes were getting shot down in 2005, and Ramadi was kicking off, and damn Operation Red Wing and Afghanistan, and those guys, like that, their chopper was shot down, and all those SEALs, all those special operators and service members, part of that situation. And other situations happened. We had recon teams that were ambushed on a sniper team that was ambushed on a rooftop, and all the shit was on CNN, and it was always right in front of you. In the chow hall, it was the only place you could see shit, and we only had a couple phones for our unit. But yeah, it was just a lot of things to reflect on and talk about. That's not even. It's not much, actually, of a lot of elements there that could be debriefed in the future. So it's a long-ass video, but I wanted to to be as dynamic with it as I could, so you guys really have some meat there to really see where some of my perspective comes from. And I don't mean to, like I said, I'm completely humbled by my experience. I have problems sleeping at night from just that one incident, just because how do you tell your body not to expect to get fucking blown out of your bed when you were? I mean, it'd be different if it was like, okay, here I am. I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be, but who knows? But yeah, that's just the way it fucking dealt with me, and I had pretty bad sleep problems for after that. But anyway, yeah, hindsight's 2020. A lot of situations like that you can't really think clearly through when you're looking back on, because your body just responds the way it does, and you have to work with what you have afterwards, and you know, it takes time. I'm not gonna make this a damn VA fucking video ending, but yeah, that's we'll get into that down the line, because when you're shaking in bed at night crying in your fucking sleep, you know, my ex was a nurse, and she was like, yo, something's up. And I would started having all these weird damn dreams about like supernatural shit and demons trying to take me and fucking crazy stuff, like vivid stuff, like demons coming in your room and trying to like crawl up over your bed, and like Satan himself is in your room like trying to overtake you. And I had some terrifying fucking dreams for quite a while. And anyway, that's a side note. For me, a lot of guys are affected differently. You know, the whole PTSD thing and fucking combat, and that's a that's something that we can talk about. I'm not afraid to talk about by any means, but this is like a 40-50 minute video already. But this is some good content to start off on. By and large, check out some of my other stuff. I do a lot of stuff for stress management, specifically like my music, training, running, all those things. I did a casualty evacuation drill when I was in Fallujah, and I ended up blowing my L5S1 vertebrae, and I knew it at the time, but I just kind of covered it up and just sucked it up for several weeks. But I had a lot of good core strength, and my doc was like, I don't have the shit to check you out with here, but I knew it was fucking bad. But that was the start of a lot of different things and little injuries here and there. But that's been a big one. Like everybody knows, when your back goes, it's tough. But so I appreciate you guys listening. I know this is a lot to take in, but I think it's worth it. And it's a long time coming to just put this shit out there a little bit. And my next videos will be going into my law enforcement career, how some of those helped me in my pursuit of law enforcement. And I want to tighten this thing up by saying everybody thinks they can't, they didn't do enough. Some think that, maybe they didn't play the most important part, but just remember that, whatever the fuck you do, no matter what your job, line unit or not, that you take your slice of the pie and you do your best with what you can with what's in your lane. That's all. That's it. Wherever the fucking cards fall, they fall, and you check that fucking mark and get on with the show, because at the end of the day, there's a lot more shit to do, and not everything's fucking warfare. But yeah, the guys that have been there, there's that element to their life, and it does impact you for better and worse. And It's all about managing that shit. And anyway, check out the next video. It'll be about my law enforcement and going into civilian side. So thank you.